Hi, my name is Martin. I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor in Open Formula. In this video, I'm going to share with you my insights and thoughts on everything that happened today, Saturday, FP3 and qualifying in Singapore. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're going well. I'm going to start with FP3, give you my straight initial reaction straight off FP3. It finished about 10 minutes ago. And then I'll get into anything exciting that happened in Q1, Q2, Q3. So my thoughts on FP3, cool session, really good session. Saw the drivers working hard out there, problem solving out there, being curious, trying different stuff. It was a close session. We had Max up there. He showed up today. Lando showed up today. Oscar's definitely in there, but didn't look to be as strong. Everyone else is getting stronger, and Mercedes in there as well. Antonelli in particular looked like he was having a lot of fun out there. Antonelli driving the car, not the car driving him. That's very important on a track like this, that you're like, you're assertive out there. Liam Lawson had a crash as well, which we'll talk to in a minute as well. And I'm hopeful for qualifying as well. I think if that was anything to go by, it's going to be tight. And whoever gets poles, the lap is going to have to be good. It's going to have to be dot the I's and cross the T's drivers style. It's going to be like a Monaco style kind of pole lap. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's talk about Liam Lawson's crash. It was on the exit of turn 7. Just quickly bring you over to the whiteboard and show you where we are over here. Turn 7, there's an exit curb that just runs across here. Liam's got the tire on the other side of that exit curb such that the curb is underneath the plank. And yeah, when that happens, the rear, the whole car, but mainly the rear, gets unloaded a little bit. And then when he's gone for the throttle, oversteer and everything. So the problem was running wide onto that curb and then not giving it the respect. Get your foot out of the throttle. You got to respect and acknowledge when you've made a mistake. Pierre Gasly did something similar a couple of minutes later. Same thing, like full rode the curb underneath the plank. But just, get off the pedals, respect the mistake, of Liam to keep his foot in. Like, why? You got to be mature. You got to be. Well, I speak about being a professional a lot on this channel. What does that mean? A professional is someone who can deal with problems, problem solve, know when to give everything they have, know when to keep everything they have. They're good in the wet. They're good in street circuits. They're good under pressure. They're good when the car's not the best. Professional, like, can just manage situations in that way. I just feel like all Liam had to do was get his foot out of that one and just live to fight another day. Anyway, just following on from yesterday, I said the street circuit rule's not into effect. I don't think it was a confidence thing. I think it was just a clumsiness thing. Like, if anything, you see George, who crashed yesterday, and he was fine in this session. So I don't think it was a confidence thing. I think it was also just slightly unlucky that he did understeer wide onto the exit curb of turn 7, whereas the issue yesterday, the crash yesterday in the chicane, was more technical, like not using the right lines and curbs and so on. This one, I think it was unlucky, but the problem was kept his foot in it. What I also thought was interesting was he comes on the radio after and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened." He always seems to say that when he crashes. I don't know what happened. That confuses me. And that's concerning if you're a Liam Lawson fan. I don't know what happened. Like, to what extent do we not know what happened? Like, not sure why he ran wide in the understeer, not sure why he got on the curb, or not sure why he kept his foot in it, or not sure why he crashed and ended up in the wall. That's really confusing and concerning for me. I'm like, what do you mean, Liam? Like, you've messed up. You've messed it up, right? At least that. So I think it's been a few times he said that on the radio. I don't know what happened. And yeah, for me, that part at least is not good enough. Wanted to talk to you guys about the turn 1 opportunity with the entry curb. I said yesterday, hey, there's free space, turn 1 entry curb, entry paint. It's all available. It'll clean up. It's grippy. It's going to open your entry into turn 1. You want to use it, therefore, and explore it. Have a look at this. Big contrast in different lines there. I'll show you guys this image that I took. So Piastri versus Leclerc. You see Piastri on the left, not even anywhere near exploiting it. Couldn't even do like the right front a little bit over. So this is Piastri I'm looking at here. And it's a shame. It makes your angle so much more acute going into turn 1. Means you've got to slow the car down more. You can't carry as much speed into turn 1. And I just don't like it. I think if you come another car width wider, Oscar, you'll be able to sweep in with a lot more speed. Someone's listening. Leclerc's listening. Every time I kind of have like a philosophy or something, Leclerc always seems to tick the box. So that is keeping my hopes alive that where I'm thinking there's lap time, there's lap time. So good job, Charles. I would say come a fraction across, Charles. This is conservative. You know, you've got plenty more you can come across. So you've got to know also when to use the available track width and when it's going to mean you can carry more speed into the corner and when it doesn't as well. So if you look at these two guys actually, Hungary final corner in the ghost car lap, you'll see Oscar's the one trying to get to the edge of the track and open up and sweep into the final corner in Hungary. That cost him pole position because Leclerc was more conservative. He stayed more three-quarter track, tight line into the long corner. It was beautiful. So you've got to also know, like, and that's what a driver coach can help with. Here's when you want to, you know, open up the track in the corner, and here's when you don't need to and you shouldn't. And it's better if you don't use all of the available track space in totally different situations. I wanted to say one more thing on this. Oh yeah, if anyone will be milking this, it'll be Kimi Antonelli. I haven't seen a shot of him, unfortunately, down into turn one. But if Bahrain testing is anything to go by, the guy was all over the racetrack. So I'll be looking out for that as well come qualifying to see if Kimi's also opening up that corner. And like I say, it does allow you to carry more speed through speed and downforce into the whole turn 1, 2, 3 complex. It's worth a little bit of lap time. Wanted to update you guys on the final chicane. My philosophy has always been the entry curb is the priority. And in this particular case, I'm also saying the exit curb is also usable and an option, could offer lap time. I still hold that true, but I'm thinking more it's going to offer you stability, consistency, predictability. It's going to be more trouble-free. It's going to give you more room on the exit. I just think the exit curb there, and I'm talking about the second part of the chicane, that left-hand curb where a lot of the guys were crashing. I just feel like now it's more of there's a bit of lap time in it, but we're talking fractions, because if you go around, yeah, you're keeping car a little bit more settled, and it follows the normal chicane philosophy that I have, which is hit the first entry curb, avoid the second one. In this particular case, I think you can carry enough speed into the first part to hook up with the second part, and it's just going to deliver more comfort because you don't need to be on throttle when you're on the curb. So it just gives you more room, and I don't know, I just feel like it's better. You've got less work to do. In addition to that, though, it also shows me who's really dialed into the racetrack. I spoke about it before with Antonelli. Who's driving the car and the circuit, not the other way around, the circuit and the car dictating play. The two guys that I have to call out really on top of it, Kimi Antonelli there, and Fernando Alonso there as well. Max as well, to a lesser extent. Let's have a look at some of them now. I'll show you a picture of Alo. Yep, so Alo using it, and you see he's kind of backed out of the throttle as well. So this is good technique, and it just requires to connect in with the first entry curb and a quick switch your hands at the right time, get your foot out of the throttle. And the reason why I think it's so much safer and better is because if you're not doing this and you've got the car on the track, you need to find your time that way. You need to put your foot down while you're turning with the wall on the exit ready to greet you as well. So I just don't think that's a path I would want to go down. I'd want to go down the path of carrying the speed into this curb, lifting on it, and then going once the car has resettled. I think it's a better way to go. I'll show you guys Kimi Antonelli if I can as well. So yeah, this was Antonelli following, I'm not sure if that's Max or Yuki, but nevertheless, have a look at this. I just love the way he's got the left front here up on it. And you see this big orange bollard curb here. Obviously that one you don't want to go near, but I like this from Antonelli. Look how stable the car is. He's able to maintain, if you look at his glove, he's able to maintain the steering lock. This is not unsettling the car at all, provided you're off the pedals, which like I say again. And when it resettles, you can just straighten the wheel and go for it. And the advantage is you've got so much more room on the exit. You see Kimi's like timed it perfectly. It didn't never look like he was going to run out of the room there. So I like this play from Fernando Alonso, one of the oldest on the grid, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, one of the youngest on the grid. I really like that. Let's have a look at Max now as well. I think this was on his quick lap. I'll just bring it up for you guys. So the first entry curb, and you notice as well that I just saw there's a little bit of rear instability. There always is in this corner because it goes down and then up, and like what George had. So if you notice, he starts to turn in, but he has to open the wheel and just wait for a fraction and then turn again. So it ends up getting the lock in. This is good. I'd argue you could go a little bit more, and it's going to help things out a little bit more. That direction change of hands wasn't as quick, and I'm being very critical here, but it wasn't as quick as I would have liked. It's got to be, yeah, there's a point where Max waits, gets the steering wheel straight for a bit, and then goes again. So It's not bad. I like it. Yeah, and you see how the car doesn't quite, there's a bit of bumpiness as well, just on the exit as well. Like when it hits here and resettles, you see Max chipping away at the wheel. Have a look at the steering wheel. That's not what you saw with Kimi Antonelli. So again, details here, guys. Have a look at Max's wheel. So it's open and straight, and then he turns it in. That's fine. But now look, you see that hacking on the exit? That's not anywhere near the hacking that you saw with Kimi Antonelli. And that's not to say that Max is not going to get pole, or he's not quick through there, or he's not quick in sector 3, or he's not a 4-time world champion. Like, don't extend my words past. I'm saying if I had to pick between what Antonelli's approach and Alonso's approach for consistency and a little bit more, a tiny fraction more lap time and just a bit more margin and everything working a little bit better, I would take Alonso and Antonelli's approach over Max Verstappen's there in that chicane. I'm not sure. I can't tell from FP3 which way Max is leaning, because that was a little bit of the second part of the curb, a little bit even of the first part. I'm not sure where Max, like what he's trying to actually achieve. I can't put my finger on. Does Max want to take the curb? And if yes, then why not take it properly? Or does Max want to avoid the curb and he accidentally turned in a bit early and he's actually wants to go around it? I'm not sure at this stage what he's trying to achieve. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that in qualifying. I just want to see what Max's philosophy is there in the second part of that chicane. The only other thing I wanted to say with Kimi Antonelli in this session was, with regards to the final chicane, was that it looks like he's driving in a really nice way such that he's not overthinking. And that's the benefit of youth, right? The benefit of being, 20, 19 years old, 18 years old, as near as makes no difference, not overthinking the final chicane. Because what I can see is a lot of the drivers overthinking that exit curb in the final chicane, thinking, what if I hit it? Is it going to upset the car balance? Is it going to break the suspension? Is it too bumpy? Am I going to hit the wall on the outside? Is it going to be uncomfortable? And there's a lot of that mature overthinking, over conservative driving. And I can see Kimi, like he's playing out there. He's literally just chucking the car wherever he wants to go. And it's that young curiosity that I can just see, which is awesome, which you want to keep, Kimi. As you go older, when you become 35, you're going to be a little bit more professional. You're going to be a little bit more like, play the percentages. And so I hope he never loses that. And I can definitely see the contrast in their driving. And Fernando's driving like that as well. And which are, like I say, the youngest and the oldest. Interesting to see. Fernando's still got that as well, which is awesome. Okay, let's talk about qualifying. I'm just going to give you a few general thoughts about the whole Q3 thing. And then I'll go Q1, Q2. I'll give you more color of Q3 a little bit later. Here we go again. George and Max. This is cool. George has a way of getting underneath Max's skin, doesn't he? We'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But there was 2 laps that George did good enough for pole. Really, really good Q3 session by George. Again, I want to underline that I scrapped the street circuit rule earlier this weekend. And I said, if you stick it in the wall in practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, it is not going to have a significant effect on your confidence like it would in a Monaco, in a Vegas, or in a Baku. Because I just never saw Singapore in that way. A lot of people are saying that Singapore is a street circuit and you got to build up to it, which can be true. But I think George has proven us and me correct and them incorrect this weekend, because George put it in the wall yesterday, ended his FP2 and he was like, whatever. He watched Antonelli, got a few insights, came back and stuck it on pole with 2 laps good enough. If that's not evidence for, there's the street circuit rule, but you got to know when to apply it and when not to apply it. So I think we were spot on with that one. George came out and did a mega job today. And like I say, I'll talk about George and Max a little bit later on. Okay, let's start with Q1. So Lewis Hamilton was the first one out in Q1, first one to do a lap, that is. He was exploring the entry space available at turn 1, but for some reason it was really dusty. That lap that Lewis did was just super dusty in Q1. It's like between FP3 and Quali. It just got dusty again for some reason. And the other thing with that entry space available at turn 1 is, out of the 20 drivers, I would say that only 2 or 3 are actually cleaning up the yellow space available on the right-hand side there. And most of them are just driving within the track limits. So yes, it's correct to go there, but if no one's going there, then it's just going to stay dusty and sit dusty. And if you're the only one doing it, you'll find less grip there. So that was the kind of frustrating thing, because Lewis had the right idea, but because he came out in Q1 and just did it straight away, then no one else was doing it and it didn't clean up. So I'm kind of like, Why aren't more drivers doing it, cleaning it up? It was actually better to stay off the dusty part and stay closer to the conventional racing line because no one else is doing it and it's not cleaned up. The other thing I wanted to call out with the Ferrari was the only one heavily sparking through the final corner, at least that I could see. And, you know, there's a story this year about their ride height being really low, and that's how they extract the performance. I'll show it to you guys now. We'll have a look at it together. So just here, you'll see like where that bump is, yeah, on the exit. Like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like I saw too many other cars except for Lewis and Charles just sparking across there quite a lot. So anyway, thought I'd call it out. Not sure if it's insightful about the ride height they were running. But yeah, wanted to just touch on Lando Norris and that turn 17 curb again being a story. I'm trying to see what the driver's intentions are. I can see Antonelli and Alonso, they're clear. But with like Max and Lando up to this point, I wasn't sure. But have a look at this. This is super interesting because whether or not you agree or disagree that it's, you know, you should be taking that curb or you shouldn't be taking that curb, you got to pick a direction, you got to run with it, and you got to optimize for it. And so I was disappointed to see Lando taking it 12 minutes into Q1 in his first run, and then on his final run in quali, not taking it. So then that tells me either one of two things. One, he's not sure, or two, he's not hitting his marks. Either he wants to take the curb and he's not taking it, or he wants to miss it and he's not missing it. So it shows me an inconsistency there, either in his decisioning or his driving. So I think at this point in Q1, you got to pick a direction and you got to run with it. It doesn't matter at this point what direction that is. You got to be optimizing your line for that. Like I say, you guys know my philosophy. I think you've got less risk on the wall if you take this one, and you can carry more speed into the chicane with this one. I think with this one, you've got a little bit more work to do to get the power down with the lock. I just feel like there's too much combined happening at that point, and you're limited by the grip and you're limited by the wall on the outside as well. But yeah, again, it doesn't matter what your standpoint is on it and which is right or wrong. You got to pick one at this point and run with it. So I'm not sure whether Lando wasn't sure or whether he missed his marks here, but it just showed me like he wasn't in a situation where he was kind of prepared. This is something you want to work out yesterday or this morning. You don't want to be mucking around with this in Q1. And we saw that in Canada. Remember, he phoned Will just before the race on the outgrid saying, can you check if Oscar's using curb at turn 6? And I'm like, hang on, that's pre-race. What have you been doing Friday, Saturday? You know, again, so it just shows me that Lando's a little bit behind the 8 ball up to this point, 12 minutes and 5 minutes into Q1. I wanted to call out a really classy piece of driving by Yuki Tsunoda under the yellow flag with Pierre Gasly. Pierre's off. He's got his little hydraulics issue or whatever he pulls off. Yellow flags come out for Yuki Tsunoda. He does do a lift, and it's just really well timed. It's a lift. It's in the right spot. It didn't cost him anything. It's compliant whilst being quick. And that's actually one of the reasons how Yuki could escape and get through this Q1 session. He's been getting hammered all weekend, but that is I want to call out, that's a classy piece of driving. That's something that I came down hard on Lando for in 2024 in Baku. On one of his runs, I think it was in Q1 maybe, or Q2. I think it was Q1 actually. He got a yellow flag and he lifted and just aborted the lap. But that's not what you want to do. You want to try and find a balance where you can lift and still respect the rules and still be safe and still be, you know, acknowledge that yellow, but try to find a way to get out of Q1 as well. That's your objective as a racing driver. So Lando blew that in Baku and Yuki didn't this time out. That was a really good piece of driving by Yuki in Q1. In Q2, guys, I just wanted to, I don't have too much insight other than George Russell's steering wheel and his brake balance versus Lewis Hamilton's brake balance. I'll bring up the picture now. This was a shot of Q2. This was on the run down to turn 14. So let me just jump over to the whiteboard and show you guys where we are. We're heading down here into turn 14 to start the final sector. And flashes up here, George Russell 58.4 on the brake balance. I've got 2 insights and 2 call outs for you guys here. Number one, 58.4 is a very curious number. I haven't thought about, I've seen it before with George. I've seen these strange numbers before, but I haven't thought about it. It hasn't clicked to me at this point. Why 58.4? That seems like a very computer calculated number. Now, I'm not suggesting that the car is doing this for George, but it could be like the engineers have done some optimization to work out, hang on, what is the optimal front brake balance for this corner at turn 14? And it's not 58.5, it's 58.4. Now, the reason I say that is typically you work in 0.5% increments or 1% increments. It is unusual for these numbers to be, you know, so precise. And so I'm not sure as to who determines that number, whether that's actually George saying, no, I want 58.4, or if that's their increments, they work in 0.4s, or if this is a determined number back at base or by engineer, like it looks like an engineering number, you know, it looks like there's more decimal points. This could be 58.436 to be the optimal brake balance for this corner. So it's an interesting number. I'm not suspicious about it, but I'm like, why isn't it 58.5? Just so that we can work in halves. So yeah, I thought I'd call that out. The second insight that I want to call out that I thought was interesting as well is Lewis regularly changed the brake balance into 14 as well. And his number was always 61.0. So that's really interesting. That's a huge difference in brake balance between the cars, guys. If we're assuming Lewis is super comfortable at 61.0 and George is super comfortable at 58.4, that's a big difference, right? You're talking nearly 3% of front brake balance. And doesn't that show you a massive difference in the way the cars are set up, whether that's suspension, aero, you know, just general balance and grip at the front? I don't have any other insight into what that could be. I might have to ask Ian. If you've been following the Mind and Machine F1 podcast, we've got Ian Wright on there. He's ex Braun Mercedes vehicle performance. I might have to ask him what would be the insight in the difference. Like the way I would think about it from a driver coach point of view is that Lewis has more front grip, front braking potential, front braking capacity. He can go to 61. George doesn't. But that's just my very basic initial vehicle performance and vehicle dynamics insight. Yeah, George got pole here with this sort of setup, so it's not that. But yeah, just the difference and the split in brake balance in this corner between the cars, I thought was interesting, insightful. I thought I'd share it with you guys. Okay, let's talk about Q3. So like I say, George, 2 runs good enough for pole position. George is class, guys. Like don't kid yourself. George Russell is an excellent professional Formula One racing driver. He's up there ahead of, like we keep talking about why this season, up to this point at least, probably just Hungary, probably up to Hungary, Netherlands. We've been talking about, this season's a little bit boring. It's between the McLaren drivers. And I think the reason it was and is because Lando and Oscar, we all widely accept, are not the world's number 1, number 2 drivers. I think we can all agree that that's Max and George. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know I'm chucking a couple more drivers in and ahead of Oscar and Lando. I'm chucking in Fernando Alonso in there, and I'm probably chucking in Leclerc, at least from a lap time point of view, in there as well. So in my book, you're probably looking at the 5th and 6th best drivers in Oscar and Lando, at the very best case, going for the World Championship. So I just say all that to say it was interesting to see George, Max there on a driver's track. So it just goes to show like what we've been saying on the channel. So that was class. Oh yeah, a couple of hits with the wall in this session as well. George on his pole lap smacked the wall at the chicane we've been talking a lot about, turn 17. So did Oscar Piastri. Neither of them taking the curb. And like I say, if you don't take the curb, that's what you're susceptible to, because if you don't take the curb, then you're on the throttle. Now, if you're on the throttle, you know, you're going to run out of room or traction, one or the two. And you might be thinking, well, hang on, being on throttle is quicker. So, but what I'm saying is you can carry more speed into the chicane such that you don't have to be on the throttle in that critical part, and you can just wait and be patient, take the shortcut, and then go after. So I just thought I'd call out, interesting that line is dangerous. You're flirting with the wall there, and it can be a little bit inconsistent at times as well. I wanted to call out just before I talk about what this means for Max versus George heading into tomorrow. Just wanted to say hats off to Lewis and a shout out to Lewis. His body language in the Parc Ferme as he was getting weighed looked very, you know, like exhausted, like, oh, what do I need to do? You know, looked very reflective, very pensive, as if he'd given his best effort. And I wanted to say hats off to Lewis for that, respect. I see Lewis like every weekend he's coming in with a positive, optimistic mindset, and he's like, He really is trying and he really wants it to work. So yeah, his body language looked down, but I don't think he should be down. He out-qualified Leclerc today around the driver's track like Singapore. That's a positive. Like, hopefully he takes that as a positive. And like, I guess because maybe he said to himself by his own admission, he's curious about the Ferrari and why it's been so strong here in the past, like Carlos and Leclerc taking poles and wins around here, Vettel as well. He's been curious about the Ferrari and he probably secretly been expecting maybe we can fight for pole. So he was disappointed to that end. I hope he's not too disappointed. I hope he can take the positives from it, that he out-qualified Charles. They didn't have, he just landed in Ferrari on a year when they didn't have the pace this time around. So yeah, just kudos to him for coming in each weekend with that optimism, and I hope he can hang on to it. All right, let's talk about Max and George and the fight down into turn one. Regular viewers of the channel, George has got to angle this car across to the inside and get there as quickly as possible. A fired up Max is a dangerous Max and an unpredictable Max. He might just fire it in, from far back or from a long side. He would just fire it in anywhere. You might be looking at a Max Piastri, like similar to what happened in Jeddah. A Max just might dive down the inside and just see what happens. What are you going to get, 5 seconds or whatever? Max might go for track position and take a 5-second penalty. You never know. That might be in the back of Max's mind. So George needs to preset, angle his car across to the inside, then get there before Max does. I think that's very important. Yeah, I've always said on this channel, like the only weaknesses that I see in Max's driving is long corners of constant radius, driving a short corner technique when he could be driving a tight line. A different story. I'll save it for another day, or check out the Hungry live stream video if you haven't seen it. The other one is when Max is emotional and fired up, it can go one of two ways. It can go just Max goes like Super Saiyan, goes that next level and really finds a lot more. Like Qatar last year was a big example when George blocked him in qualifying. Max, I think Max got a penalty or whatever there, but it fired Max up and he went on to win that one with a good start. George can't afford to let Max get up the inside tomorrow, no way. Or it can go the direction of Spain where Max just lost his head and lost points. And it was obviously very silly, very unprofessional. That's the only other weakness when Max gets, but you got to take Max as a whole. You can't cherry pick and say, I want all of this beautiful driving, but I don't want the emotions that come with Max and the bad decisions that come with him getting fired. You can't say that. You got to take Max as a package because, he's perfect as he is, let's say. So anyway, how's this going to go tomorrow? How's this going to go tomorrow? Are we going to get the emotional, fired up, excellent, brilliant, flamboyant Max? Or are we going to get the clumsy, silly Max and say, why did you do that, Max? That was not necessary. It'll be interesting to see, but I still stand by what I say. And let's draw it up. Just, if you guys are new to the channel, you don't quite understand what the defensive posture is, I'll just draw it out for you now quickly. So it basically says if George is starting on the racing line on the right-hand side, and Max is over here, what's really important is where George sets his car up in the box. Don't set your car up straight in the box like that. That would not be helpful. Set your car up with a little bit of an angle. Well, as much as you're allowed to do, right? I take that back a little bit. Set it up with a big aggressive angle and get yourself to the inside. And why this is important is because when you go off the line, you don't need to put steering in the first couple of, the first phase. You can just go straight to where you need to go to the defensive position. You can put your steering in later. Remember, steering wheel straight and putting steering in is going to cost you forward momentum and traction. Now, if Max got a good launch and happened to get alongside here, he sees George coming across, Max is going to have to go to the outside. And that's favorable for George because he can control and manage the corner from the inside. Remember, the inside gives you more rules and regulations and more freedom with the racing guidelines, which is that for the attacking car to be afforded space on the outside, you need to be side by side. Whereas for the attacking car to be afforded space up the inside, you only need to be front axle to mirror. So that's another reason why I would encourage George to do the preset. This is very important. Preset in the box and get to the inside, claim the inside, and it's less likely that Max is going to drive around you at turn one. So I'll be looking out for that tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching this video. Drop me a thought, question, or comment in the comment section of this video. And I'll see you guys after the race tomorrow. Cheers.